Hello, I'm going to color a page today, not this small, don't worry. But these are so cute. I love them so much. No, I'm going to color something that is full-sized from the Cozy Creative Coloring book. And first I have to decide which page. How do you decide which page to color? I feel like sometimes, if I'm coloring for self-care and to like soothe my mood, it feels like the image I choose, it's like a high stakes decision. So I've got these two here. Both have to do with growth. Both have to do with plant life. One has the full tree and the heart and the whole big picture of what's underground and what we're reaching for and how it's connected. And the other one on the right really focuses on the soil. It's really focusing on maybe a time where the growth isn't as visible. And I think that is what I'm most needing today in this session. In there, it says, trust your ever-growing life force in those little pods under the ground. And there's water under the ground and hearts and stars and who knows what is under there. So I think this will be a nice meditation to remember that, sometimes self-care is like just tending our soil, like getting down there. And that's, even though it's not as sexy as the blooming part, it is so important, So I grabbed a little family of colors here. I really enjoy doing that even when purchasing new supplies. I've strayed away from, getting a whole pack with all of the colors. And instead, I'll just choose a limited palette. And I find that creatively, it's very helpful because it limits my choices. So that means less overwhelm. And typically, I don't know about you, but I tend to gravitate towards a little family of colors at any given time. And you know which ones those are, because those are your shortest pencil crayons. The ones that you just love so much. And then there'll be other ones that you've had for years. Maybe you even have some left over from other sets, and you're like, I just never use that color, So this little family is like deep chocolate into some like pumpkin and mango gold. It's like golden, oranges, earthy colors. And so I thought these will be the perfect colors to bring some texture into the background. Well, the background of the underground. So you'll see this drawing here that I did. The soil part already has texture. And I love this cross-hatching pattern. I've been drawing it for decades in my work. And it's so fun to draw. And it's also really fun to create contrast and pop with other images. So in the Cozy Creative Coloring book, you'll see this pattern in a lot of spaces. And I think it's nice because you can just choose to enjoy the white and black textured pattern in contrast with whatever you choose to color. But sometimes you can color it as well. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm using like not just one color, but a whole family just in the soil. I'm going to use this family of chocolate to mango and everything in between. And I like to start with the darkest color and just find little pockets randomly. I'm not thinking too deeply about it. I'm just thinking, this is what I would call like the pushing and pulling. It's like the soil, there's places where I'm going to go in with this dark chocolate and it's going to be pushing it back away from your eyesight, pushing it deeper into the ground, into the darkness. And, then I will grab a slightly lighter color in this kind of like burnt orange situation. And then just, like add it to the edges of where I put the dark brown. And that's starting to pull a little bit. It's not as far back. It's bringing warmth because now we're dealing with a different color. And I typically will just do that layer upon layer, kind of not thinking too much, but blurring my eyes and looking at the whole page and just distributing little bits, little pockets of color here and there. I really enjoy this process. You know, one of the benefits of choosing a family of colors is that limits are so helpful, right? I could color the whole page with this one family. I could do that. I don't think I'm going to do that today, but I'm going to do it in the soil. But you could, and it's nice. On one hand, you know, if you don't have a lot of art supplies, you only have a handful of colors, even 3, you can still do the whole page like that. You don't need much. And sometimes the limits that we have creatively are the magic, like they're the magic key, because then we have to make decisions. Then we have to think about where we're distributing things. And it can have us, because of how we have to bend around the limits, we end up creating things we wouldn't otherwise do. We can become a little more innovative in how we're working and what colors we're working with. For example, maybe if you have, you know, a little family of colors and it's getting repetitive, then to create variety, you might press a little darker with one color and go a little lighter with another color, or start making patterns with the colors like cross-hatching or little circles or filling in the spaces differently. And then you realize, oh, I could do this differently. I don't just have to color in the star. I can draw in the star with a color, you know? So you see here, it's very subtle, but I really like it. I think it really adds richness, bringing all these different colors in. And as I'm going along here, I kind of like the little white bits, but I have a feeling, if I know myself, I'm just going to cover them all up. But it can be so tempting to just keep going, even though those little patches that have yet to be colored can actually be so nice, just left raw, like left in the original state. Once I move to the yellow, this is like the mango end, the yellow mango end of this color family. It's easy to go over top with a light color. I start with the darks and fade it out so that the edges are a little bit lighter, so it's easier for blending. But with the yellow, then I can just kind of fill in the little spots, the little highlights. This is pulling it. Like, can you see how it's kind of, those yellow parts, they feel like almost like where the soil is glowing. Maybe there's something magical growing underneath the ground. Of course there is. But you see how it kind of comes towards you? It feels a little bit warm. I don't know. It's kind of nice. And it's pretty forgiving at this point. Once I've filled in the whole space, then I'll go back. I'll just sort of take a look at, where do I want to put a little more contrast? What parts do I want to darken up a little bit? Where do I want to push? And where do I want to pull? And of course, there's no correct way of doing any of this. It's just really whatever feels good. Yeah, I think that looks nice. All right. New color family. What am I doing? We've got some greens here. We've got some leaves above ground and some sprouting happening below ground. I'm imagining, of course, above the ground, there's the beginning of sky. And that can be anything. That can be the sky on another planet, the sky at a wild sunset or a sunrise. Could have all different kinds of weather. It could be in the middle of the night. I could have done it pitch black. But today I think I'm going for something rosy, something special. I guess it depends on the time of day. What is that saying? Red sky at night, Sailor's Delight, Red Sky and Morning, Sailor Take Warning, something like that. So I guess it depends. And I typically I do this when I paint walls also, like at home. Like, I don't use painter's tape. I find that I make way more mistakes if I tape off an area to try to make straight lines. So what I'll do is I'll take a brush if I'm painting a wall, and to do the trim work, I'll do that first, like create the outline, do it really carefully, take my time with it so that I'm not going over the line or I'm just going really straight. And then I fade it up a little bit like I'm doing here, give myself a little bit of, like a little safety parameter. And then it's so much more fun to roll the paint on in the middle because I know the edges are like pristine and I don't have to worry about them. They're done, they're good. And then I can cover that big satisfying space in the middle. And I do that also with my coloring pages, as you can probably see here. I'll go around the edges, around the shape with the darker colors. I'll press a little harder here and then just fade it out. It's just like a little less pressure. Sometimes I do little circles. Sometimes I go in straight lines. I find the circles, the circular motions, forgiving. Because when I go straight, sometimes it just, I don't know, it starts to look too controlled or something. So I find it, that's a rhythm I really enjoy. Lightening up on the hand and going in little tiny, tiny whispers of circles. When I do that and then I choose a new color, I can blend easily. So then I'll come in with a soft whisper of a new color and overlap them, right? You see how here it was like that darker pink, and now I'm using a purple. And the blending is, a lot better than it would have been if I had done some straight lines or pressed really hard. You'd have a different kind of edge. And that's cool too. But for me, like I want this fade of one color into another and maybe even another one. So yeah, I've got blue now here. I don't know what time of day it is or what planet this garden is on, but it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of this. I also kind of love about this page that I don't really know what's growing. Like I see these sprouts, in spring, when you start to see things sprout from a garden and you're not sure, what's that going to be? It all kind of looks the same almost. These little leaves, these little green things, these little fins, little green fins that come out of the dirt. And it's like, is this going to be a small flower? Or is this going to be a bush? Or is this going to be a tree? Like, who knows? So I kind of love that. It's a little mysterious. We've got these green fins up top. And then these words, trust your ever-growing life force. These words just came to me when I drew the page. And by the way, all of the illustrations, all of the coloring pages in the Cozy Creative Coloring Book were drawn by me by hand. This fleshy hand you see here, there's no AI, there's no robot arm, there's none of that stuff. It's all by hand. So all the mistakes are characteristics. And I'm doing kind of the same thing here, the same technique as you can see with the greens, right? So off to my right under my arm there's those little family of greens. And I've got one of the darker ones and I'm just, finding little places to put some shadow. I guess it's not really shadow, but some of that darker color. And I'm leaving room. So I'll have like a little bit of dark and then lighten up a little bit, fade it out a little bit so that it's easier when I bring in the lighter color to blend it. And then at the end of the day, the leaves might look just green, like to a regular eye who's not a color nerd like you and me, it might just look solid green. But I think I really love it when you look at a color and realize there's so many more colors in it, like how the Impressionists painted, or how, I think of the Group of Seven and how they painted snow. And it's like, there's no white in that snow. It's just all different colors, and it's kind of wild. From far back, it's like, ooh, yeah, that's snow. That's just snow. We think of snow as being white, at least at first. But when you look closer and you look at some paintings of snow, it's like, oh, this is just incredible. I'm not saying this coloring page is on par with the Impressionists. I'm just saying. I like to use many shades of green to create one rich, interesting green. And I like the physical act of blending. It feels nice. I don't know why I drew water in some of these little pods that are growing underneath, but I kind of love it. It brings emotion. It makes me think about oceans underground. It makes me think about like the fluidity and becoming, and how an ocean can change mountains. And so in this context of like some little seedling growing inside of you, inside of me, having all the potential of an ocean, I like that. I also like thinking about tears and how tears connected to the ocean, these salty, watery things, being poured out and then being returned and nourishing the growth of something new. And how these tender things are incredibly forceful and strong. But of course, when you color this page, even though those lines are like water lines, I mean, it doesn't have to be water. It can be chocolate milk. It can be cherry Kool-Aid. It can be any kind of color, liquid that you would like. It's funny to speed the video up of the coloring because I think it's funny to see my hand twitching around like that. It actually takes me like about, I don't know, like 40 minutes to an hour maybe to color an average page. But, part of that is probably because I use like 4 or 5 greens to make a green and like a whole family of colors to color in the dirt. You don't have to do that either. There's something really nice to like do something really quick, coloring with a solid color. That would actually be like a growth edge for me, is to resist all of the blending and limit my choices even further. In another video that I have coming up, you'll see how I really took this challenge on big time by coloring a whole page, not even with colored pencils, but with a pencil, like a regular, it was like just a cheap old pencil. So if you don't have art supplies, you can still actually make something quite beautiful. And I think, again, the limits, what do you do with a pencil, right? When you're coloring everything and you just have one tone, it's all about texture at that point. It's all about shading at that point. And it's a great exercise. It's like coloring in black and white, So back to the page at hand here. I like bringing the green in. I like it like merging with some of the blue. And I like thinking of like, I don't know, the green of growth and the green of love and new beginnings, freshness, something full of life. I like bringing that down into the pod here. From green, of course, it's easy to bring in some gold, like bring that all the way into the yellow, make a little bit of a glow. It's fun to color something that has defined shapes, where you know exactly when you are inside the lines and when you are outside the lines. But I also like these places that are kind of in between. like in and around the lettering. There's kind of some shapes that form there. And if you blend and like move around, you can, I don't know, just have fun coloring and exploring a little bit of like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I was going to say, look, Ma, no hands. I just keep picturing like a kid on a bike, you know, those moments where you take your hands off the wheel and feel a little bit free and a little bit like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it can be really fun. Like, I don't know. Do I stop coloring here? Is this where this ends? It can be so comforting to have these, like, you know, when life is overwhelming, which it is often, it's so nice. Coloring is so wonderful because it gives you these little controlled spaces where you can make a simple choice and you know what to do, right? You're like, I choose a color, I fill this space. I pick up yellow and I fill in this star shape and then I'm done, right? It's like, there's so much decision fatigue everywhere we go, and we're just bombarded with information and options, and sometimes it's just nice to be restricted, you know? And that said, also life is sometimes, you know, just not so cut and dry, and so this is a little, you know, it's a little safe place to be a little messy, to blur the lines a little bit. Find some beauty, find your way around them. I think a lot about trust when I think of this image, when I think about garden metaphors in general, around, especially around like winters, when things are not, we're not getting the feedback, we're not getting lots of visual affirmation that things are growing. You know, and you know, of course, you know, the flowering, the blooming, the harvesting parts comes later. First is the roots, first is the soil, right? There's so much happening underneath the surface before we get a sign in the material world. And this is true of our gardens, and it's also true of the growth that's happening inside us as well. You know, you have to trust, right? When it comes to, say, like vegetables or something, you know, you can't be like looking at the dirt and then, okay, I just got to see if they're growing. You know, you don't want to start digging. You don't want to start disrupting everything. They need that time. Plants need that time underground in the darkness. There's a purpose to that quiet. It's part of the creative process for all of us. But I think in our very awake world and our very stimulating world, it's easy to forget or to feel like, well, there must be something wrong with me if I can't show everyone my full bloom self right now. And it's very easy to also compare ourselves to other people, right? Comparing plants with other plants. But everything has its own timing, and everything has its own cycle. Not everything grows at the same speed. And it's important that not everything grows at the same speed. But it's not something that we always understand. So this is a nice page to color when you're feeling like, you know, I don't have anything to show right now. I don't feel like I'm seeing the signs of, you know, that I'm not getting affirmations about all the hard work I've been doing. I've been dreaming, I've been writing, I've been loving, I've been trying, I've been meditating, I've been breathing, I've been generous. I'm trying to be courageous. And, you know, you're not getting instant gratification. And it can sometimes be so scary. So it's nice to come to this page and see this image and spend time in this magical, interesting, little strange world under the soil, and to be coloring while you look at the word trust. Right. Trust your ever-growing life force. Right. I am also nature. I am also life. I found when coloring this page that it's interesting to think about what these little symbols mean for me, you know? Like, if there was a little pod under the ground of stars that are growing for me in my personal, my life garden right now, what do they represent? What's on its way? And if there's a little heart with a little swirl or a rainbow, there's a little heart with some little flower petals creeping over one side of it, and that little heart is in my garden underneath the soil. And it's like, it's nestled into that beautiful, warm soil, and there's water nearby, and there's a pink sky up ahead. Like, what is that becoming? I feel differently when I'm thinking about life like this. Like if I'm let's just say that this image is an accurate snapshot of your life and what's in store. And someone could tell you like, yeah, this is actually what's going on. You can't see it, you know, because we're living in the quote unquote real world or whatever. But under the soil, there's this. This is like an ultrasound of your spiritual life, right? If you knew that that was true, if you believed that that was true, like, how would that change your day? I would feel really excited. I would definitely be feeling hopeful. I would be feeling, some curiosity and maybe a little relief, anticipation. It's kind of like an equivalent of smelling fresh baked cookies, right? Like that are like in the oven. You can't see them yet, but you're getting a sense. You're getting the sense of smell, and you're like, oh, I think there's something yummy coming. And if you were hungry and you wanted a snack, you would probably kind of calm down a little bit because you can hear it, or maybe you can hear cookies baking. You can smell it, right? So you're like, okay, I know something's coming, so you can relax because you know it's coming. And it's not just relaxing, but also like, oh, I can't wait to bite into that. It's going to be great. It's already on its way. The gratitude can start before you've even had a bite of the cookie. Anyway, I don't know if you like cookies, but maybe I'm just hungry right now. But I think about that just like in life, like, oh, are the stars a wish coming true? Is this like some magical alignment happening? Are the hearts like love? Is it a new relationship? Is it falling in love with something or someone that's already here in my life, but doing it in a new way? What good things are happening? And what about this one, this little blue one that just says your? What would be in there? Okay, I'm kind of liking this. I really like bringing the blue down and not just those solid pods. I kind of love how that looks, especially because, as you saw, like the soil has that orange in it. And so blue and orange being complementary colors, there's contrast. They have a nice relationship, those two. So it was nice to bring the blue in here. I'm getting pretty close to done. At this stage, it's kind of nice to just lean back and look at the whole page and just listen to your gut and be like, what does this need? Is it too bright on one side? Is it too dark over here? Do I want to like pop something up, smooth something out? Maybe there was something you thought you blended, but then you did such a great job doing everything else that now it's like, oh, I want to step the game up on this one. I want to go back in there. I find it's feels nice to complete it by like paying attention to the edges, the things closest to the lines. I love having thick lines. It's just a little more forgiving, a little less intimidating. I don't need intimidation in my coloring book. This is such a nice color. It's not quite key lime. I don't really know what that is exactly, but it's just this really sweet, soft, non-intrusive kind of like yellowish green. It's got a little bit of like a bone color with it. It's all coming together now. You know, it's so nice to have a page like this completed, put it up on the fridge, but also, oh, I really like it. It's a great journal prompt also. Not that you have to do any of that stuff, though. Coloring is just enough. Let's clear off the table bits. Clear everything away. Let's see. What does it look like? Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for coloring with me. I hope that you were coloring along with me or that you just enjoyed this as much as I did.